Welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right into a pretty fascinating mystery. I want you to imagine two individuals. They live in the exact same city, they work really similar jobs, and they take home the exact same paycheck every single month. Yet, fast forward 10 years, and one of them owns 3 properties and hasn't stressed over a bank balance in years. The other, they're perpetually exhausted and basically just 2 missed payments away from total financial disaster. So what gives? Why does the exact same income lead to 2 completely different financial realities?
Take our first guy, Marcus, for example. He's exhausted, he's financially stressed, and he's constantly on the brink. But then contrast that with Diana. She just radiates this calm confidence, owns appreciating assets, and is completely, totally secure. Now, our first instinct is usually to chalk this disparity up to luck, or privilege, or maybe even laziness, right? But behavioral economics tells a completely different story. As we're going to see, the gap between Marcus and Diana isn't a difference in character or intelligence. It's actually rooted in 4 structural, psychological, and behavioral differences in how they manage their money.
So here's exactly what we're going to unpack today. The scarcity mindset tax, assets versus liabilities, the $174,000 marshmallow, and the contagion of status spending. Definitely stick with me through this, especially for point number 3, because the mind-bending math behind that marshmallow concept is absolutely going to change how you look at every single purchase you make from here on out.
Okay, let's start with our first pillar, the scarcity mindset tax. Basically, how poverty literally taxes the brain.
The big key here is mental bandwidth. Think of your brain exactly like a laptop. When you have 14 browser tabs screaming for your attention, how to cover rent, a sudden car repair, an overdraft notice, your brain simply lacks the RAM, the cognitive capacity, to run complex financial planning software in the background. The laptop fan just whirs and the whole system freezes. People experiencing financial scarcity don't make bad decisions because they're bad at making decisions. It's that their immediate urgent worries actually deplete the exact cognitive capacity they need to plan effectively for the future. To back this up, check out this monumental finding from Harvard and Princeton researchers Mullainathan and Shafir. Published back in 2013 in the journal Science, they found that worrying about money impairs cognitive function more than being sleep-deprived. Think about how groggy and completely scattered you feel after a terrible night's sleep. Yeah, that is the baseline mental environment of financial stress. It is a literal biological hurdle that makes navigating complex financial choices incredibly difficult. And hey, this isn't just some one-off study. Massive 2024 research spanning 65 separate global studies entirely confirms this. Financial stress reliably, measurably degrades the quality of decision-making across all cultures and demographics. So here's the crucial takeaway. Scarcity acts as a cognitive tax. When a wealthy person like Diana chooses between investments, she is making that decision from a rested, unhurried mind. There are no open mental tabs screaming about an electricity bill. She gets to use 100% of her cognitive bandwidth. The wealthy just simply do not pay this cognitive tax.
Moving right along to our second behavioral difference, planting trees versus burning wood, or, as it's more commonly known, assets versus liabilities.
This is honestly the single most important financial concept that traditional schools almost always skip. Every single time you spend money, you're either planting a tree or you're burning the wood. Assets represent money flowing into your pocket. These are your orchards, right? Stocks, rental properties, dividends, businesses. They keep yielding fruit whether you're actively working or not. Liabilities, on the other hand, represent money flowing out of your pocket. This is your bonfire. We're talking car loans, consumer debt, a flashy, rapidly depreciating wardrobe. It burns bright, it looks incredibly impressive for a minute, but very quickly it just turns to ash.
When we project this behavior over 10 years, the difference is completely exponential. Redirecting your income into assets compounds beautifully over time. But buying liabilities, that means your wealth just stagnates or even declines. Despite having the exact same starting salary, someone buying liabilities stays stuck because their money is entirely tied up in things that constantly drain their resources. Simply put, the wealthy buy things that buy them more things. Everyone else buys things that cost them more things.
Look at this staggering number, $21.7 trillion. According to Federal Reserve data, that is the amount of wealth increase seen by the top 10% of Americans just between the years 2020 and 2023. And here's the absolute kicker. They didn't gain this massive sum just by getting salary raises. They gained it through the architecture of their money. Their assets went up in value while they simply continued existing. It's not a moral failing if you aren't doing this yet. Honestly, it's just a system. And once you actually understand the system, you can choose to enter it.
All right, now we arrive at the emotional and mathematical core of this whole explainer, Pillar 3, the $174,000 marshmallow test, and the true price of instant gratification.
You've probably heard of that famous 1960 Stanford psychology experiment, right? The one where kids were offered one marshmallow now or two if they could wait 15 minutes. And the kids who waited generally grew up to have higher net worths. But let's look at the adult mathematical reality of this over a lifetime. Let's say your marshmallow today is a $10,000 car upgrade or some luxury purchase. If you leave that 10 grand unspent at year zero and instead invest it in a basic index fund compounding at a pretty modest 10% annually, look what happens by year 40. It becomes over $174,000. That means spending 10 grand on instant gratification today doesn't just cost you 10 grand. It actually robs your future self of $174,000. That is the breathtaking price of the marshmallow. But hey, we have to pause here for a second because that standard just delay your gratification advice often misses a really critical piece of context. If your environment has never delivered on its promises, waiting isn't rational, it is naive. Studies show that children from unstable, financially insecure environments often eat the marshmallow immediately, not because they lack willpower, but because lived experience taught them that the promised reward might just vanish entirely. The wealthy can easily delay gratification because they trust the system. Their world is predictable. So the first step to building delayed gratification isn't just raw discipline. It's actually creating a baseline of financial stability that you can genuinely trust.
Let's move to our fourth and final behavioral difference, the contagion of status spending, or, as the subtitle puts it pretty bluntly, how Instagram is making you poor. Our natural human evolutionary drive to maintain our social standing is literally being weaponized against our wallets. And the data absolutely backs this up. A 2023 Cambridge study proved mathematically that visible consumption, like say your neighbor buying a shiny new car, actually increases debt for their entire social network. Status spending is scientifically contagious. Furthermore, a massive World Bank study tracking data from 1980 to 2003 found that as income inequality rose, lower-income household debt skyrocketed from 60% of disposable income to an incredible 104%. People were going into debt not for basic survival, but simply to match the conspicuous consumption of their wealthier neighbors.
Which really leads to this stark contrast. The poor and a lot of the middle class often spend money to look wealthy, basically financing a performance for total strangers. Meanwhile, the genuinely wealthy, they spend money to become wealthier. Studies like the famous Millionaire Next Door research consistently show that the truly wealthy actively avoid status signaling. They're driving modest cars, wearing clothes without giant logos. Their net worth is largely invisible because it's tied up in the assets we talked about earlier, not draped all over their bodies for a social media post.
So the real challenge for us here is disrupting our own social comparison loop. Before you make your next significant purchase, ask yourself one simple question. Am I buying this for me or am I buying this for them? Are you satisfying a genuine personal need, or are you just paying an incredibly expensive entry fee to maintain a perceived rank in some digital village? Look, your brain evolved to track social standing, that's natural. But interpreting an Instagram highlight reel as a threat to your status, that will keep you perpetually broke.
Okay, we've covered a lot of pretty deep behavioral traps today. So let's pivot to empowerment. Let's talk about how to actively redesign your financial system.
It's really hard to change the game if you don't know the hidden rules. But by uncovering these steps, we can actually break the cycle. Step 1. Eliminate just one financial stressor this month. Don't try to fix the whole shebang at once. Just free up a little bit of that cognitive RAM. Step 2. Audit your purchases. You don't have to stop buying fun things, but you absolutely must know if you're buying an asset or a liability. Stop burning wood blindly. Step 3. Make one 10-year plant decision today. Put a small amount of money into an index fund or savings. Just don't eat that marshmallow today. And step 4. Turn off the social comparison feed. Just mute the accounts that make you want to spend money to impress people you don't even know.
To wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. The gap between the rich and the poor isn't ultimately made of money, it is made of decisions. And the truly beautiful thing about decisions is that they can always be remade. By understanding mental bandwidth, by prioritizing assets, delaying your gratification, and rejecting that status contagion, you can completely rewrite your financial future. So, what decision are you going to remake today? Take back your agency, take a hard look at your own balance sheet, and let us know your next move in the comments below. Thanks so much for learning with us.